Okay, imagine this. It's the first day of school,
Yeah.
and you're a teacher setting up your classroom.
Right.
Everything is in place. The desks are all neatly arranged, the colorful posters are up on the walls,
Yeah.
and you know you're feeling that mix of excitement and nerves that always comes with a fresh start. And then a parent walks in with their kindergartner
Oh, boy.
in tow and announces, "My child's a prodigy destined for Harvard,
Oh, wow.
and we expect you to prepare them accordingly."
Oh, my goodness.
You smile politely, but inside you're thinking, Harvard, from kindergarten.
Yeah. It's a scenario that just highlights the sometimes vast disconnect between parental expectations and the reality of education. That kind of pressure cooker environment can really have a negative impact on a child's development.
Right.
And, you know, it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the things teachers experience.
That's right. Today we're diving into the world of parents behaving badly in educational settings. And trust me, the stories we're about to unpack are equal parts hilarious, baffling, and sometimes even heartbreaking. A teacher shared this anecdote about a mother who insisted her 9-year-old son couldn't poop in the toilet,
What?
despite the fact that he was perfectly capable of doing so at school.
This is a classic example of denial, a defense mechanism where a person refuses to accept reality because it's too uncomfortable or threatening. In this case, the mother might be struggling to accept that her child has reached a developmental milestone,
Right.
or she may be projecting her own anxieties onto him.
It's fascinating how these deeply personal anxieties can manifest in such unexpected ways, but this denial isn't limited to potty training. We see it in parents who refuse to acknowledge learning disabilities, sometimes even going to extreme lengths to avoid the label.
Think about it. For some parents, the idea of their child having a learning disability can be incredibly challenging. It might challenge their own sense of identity as a parent, or evoke fears of their child being stigmatized or facing limited opportunities.
It's almost as if they're protecting their own image of the perfect child, even if it means ignoring the child's actual needs. And sadly, this denial can have serious consequences.
Absolutely. When a child's learning challenges aren't acknowledged, they miss out on crucial support and interventions. This can lead to academic struggles, social isolation, and a diminished sense of self-worth.
And this denial isn't limited to the United States. We have an account from a teacher in Japan who describes students with severe disabilities being forced into mainstream classes because their parents refuse to accept their needs.
Yeah, it highlights how cultural norms and societal pressures can exacerbate parental denial. In some cultures, acknowledging a disability can be seen as shameful or a sign of weakness, which further discourages parents from seeking help.
It's heartbreaking to think of these children struggling in an environment that doesn't meet their needs simply because of their parents' inability to accept reality.
And it really underscores the importance of creating a more inclusive and supportive educational system where differences are embraced and children with diverse needs are given the tools they need to succeed.
We see this pattern of denial play out in other areas too, like with the parent who insisted their daughter didn't have a cell phone, despite clear evidence to the contrary, or the parent who claimed their straight-A student, who was missing half of their classes, should be penalized to match their failing son's grade. It's as if reality itself is negotiable.
It speaks to a deeper issue of control. Some parents may feel a loss of control as their children grow and assert their independence. This can lead to attempts to control the narrative, even if it means distorting reality.
It's like they're trying to create a perfect world for their child, where challenges don't exist. But, as we all know, life isn't always rainbows and butterflies. And sometimes this desire for control morphs into a sense of entitlement.
That's a great segue into our next theme. Misplaced priorities and entitlement. Remember that anecdote about the kindergarten parent with Harvard dreams?
Right.
Well, imagine a mom who pulled her 3-year-old out of a dance recital because her costume wasn't fancy enough.
Seriously, a 3-year-old. It's hard to believe that a child that young would even care about the intricacies of their costume.
It highlights how some parents prioritize superficiality over their child's actual experience and growth. The focus shifts from the joy of learning and participation to external validation and appearances. This is where entitlement starts to take root.
And this sense of entitlement extends beyond costumes. We see it in parents who believe excused absences mean no makeup work, as if their child should be exempt from the basic responsibilities of being a student.
It's a disconnect between expectations and the reality of academic accountability. These parents may view education as a transaction where their child's presence is enough to warrant good grades, regardless of actual effort.
It reminds me of that parent who resorted to bribing their child weekly just to attend class. Talk about missing the point of education.
Right. It's like they're trying to buy their child's engagement instead of fostering intrinsic motivation. And when this approach inevitably fails, guess who becomes the scapegoat?
The teachers, of course. We have countless stories of parents berating teachers for their children's poor performance, despite clear evidence of lack of effort or disengagement from the student.
It's a classic case of deflecting responsibility. Instead of addressing the root cause, which often lies within the family dynamic or the child's own choices, the blame is conveniently shifted onto an external factor, the teacher.
It's a pattern we see time and time again, and it's incredibly frustrating for educators who are genuinely trying their best to support these students.
Absolutely. It creates a hostile work environment and undermines the teacher's authority and expertise. But it also sends a harmful message to the child that they're not responsible for their actions.
And sometimes this lack of accountability stems from a place of overprotection, which brings us to our third theme. Parents can become so focused on shielding their children from discomfort or failure that they inadvertently cripple their ability to navigate the real world.
It's like they're trying to create a bubble-wrapped existence for their child, free from any challenges or setbacks. But in doing so, they prevent them from developing resilience, problem-solving skills, and a sense of personal responsibility.
A perfect example of this is the story of those parents who insisted on sitting in on their daughter's high school classes. Can you imagine the awkwardness?
It speaks to a deep-seated anxiety about their child's ability to handle even the most mundane social interactions. This level of over-involvement can be stifling for a teenager who's trying to establish their independence and find their place in the world.
It's like you're sending the message, we don't trust you to handle this on your own. And while their intentions might be good, the message they're sending can have lasting consequences. But this overprotective instinct can manifest in far more detrimental ways.
Think about the boy caught stealing, who convinced his parents that the teachers were framing him. The parents, blinded by their love and trust, refused to believe any evidence to the contrary.
That's a chilling example of how overprotection can morph into a dangerous form of denial. It sends the message that the child is above reproach, even when they've clearly done something wrong.
This lack of accountability can have far-reaching consequences, shaping the child's moral compass and their understanding of right and wrong.
And it's not just about major infractions like stealing. We have an anecdote about a parent who completely lost it because their son only had one shoe after a fight. Instead of addressing the aggressive behavior, the focus was solely on the missing footwear.
It highlights a complete disregard for the underlying issue of violence. The parent is more concerned with the superficial consequences than with addressing the root cause of the problem. This lack of accountability can create a pattern of behavior where the child learns that they can avoid consequences for their actions.
And sadly, sometimes this overprotection, combined with a lack of accountability, can have even more profound and heartbreaking consequences. We have a story about twins who were raised to disrespect women, a direct result of their parents' harmful attitudes and behaviors.
This example illustrates how parental actions, both explicit and implicit, can shape a child's worldview and have a lasting impact on their character. It's a sobering reminder of the responsibility that comes with parenthood.
It's clear that these parental behaviors stem from a complex interplay of factors. But it's important to remember that at the heart of it all is a deep love for their children. It's just that sometimes that love gets channeled in ways that are ultimately harmful.
Exactly. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some potential solutions and strategies for creating a more supportive and effective educational environment for everyone involved.
Stay tuned. We've just scratched the surface of the challenges teachers face, right?
Right.
When dealing with parents who have a distorted view of their child's abilities or place in the school system, it's easy to label these parents as delusional or simply difficult. But I think it's important to try to understand the motivations behind these behaviors.
You're absolutely right. While their actions might seem irrational or even detrimental, they often stem from a place of, deep love and concern for their child.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes that love manifests in ways that are counterproductive to the child's actual well-being.
So how do we make sense of these seemingly contradictory impulses to protect and support a child while simultaneously hindering their growth and development?
One key factor is fear. Many parents harbor a deep-seated fear of their child, being labeled as different or deficient. They worry about the stigma associated with learning disabilities or behavioral issues and how it might impact their child's future.
So they cling to an idealized image of their child, even if it means ignoring clear signs of struggle.
Right.
It's almost as if they believe that if they don't acknowledge the problem,
Right.
it will simply cease to exist.
Precisely. It's a form of self-protection, shielding themselves from the emotional discomfort of confronting their child's challenges, but in doing so, they're preventing their child from receiving the support they need to thrive.
And this fear of their child being perceived negatively can also fuel an obsession with academic achievement.
Right. It's like grades and test scores become the ultimate measure of their child's worth, and by extension, their own worth as parents.
Exactly. We see this in parents who pressure their children relentlessly to excel academically, even at the expense of their physical and emotional well-being. They hover over their homework, schedule tutors and extracurricular activities, and react with disappointment or even anger if the child doesn't meet their lofty expectations.
It creates an incredibly stressful environment for the child, who's constantly striving to live up to impossible standards. And it sends the message that their worth is conditional upon their achievements.
This pressure cooker environment can have long-term consequences. Children may develop anxiety, performance issues, or even a sense of learned helplessness.
Right.
They might also come to resent their parents and the very activity they're being pushed to excel in.
And let's not forget the impact on the teacher,
Who's often caught in the crossfire between these demanding parents and their stressed-out children. They're expected to somehow meet these unrealistic expectations while also trying to create a supportive and equitable learning environment for all students.
It's a Herculean task. Teachers are often blamed if the child doesn't perform to the parent's standards, even if the child isn't putting in the effort, or if there are underlying learning challenges that need to be addressed.
And this brings us back to that sense of entitlement that we discussed earlier. These parents often believe their child deserves special treatment, whether it's excused absences without consequences, preferential grading,
Right.
or extra attention from the teacher.
They might view education as a service they're paying for and expect a return on their investment
Right.
in the form of good grades and accolades for their child. They may also feel entitled to dictate how the teacher runs their classroom or how the curriculum is delivered.
It's like they see themselves as customers rather than partners in their child's education. And when things don't go their way, they're quick to complain or even threaten legal action.
It creates a toxic dynamic that undermines the teacher's authority and creates an atmosphere of mistrust and resentment. And it sends the message to the child that the rules don't apply to them, that they can always rely on their parents to intervene on their behalf.
Which brings us to another crucial point: the impact of these behaviors on the children themselves. When parents constantly swoop in to rescue their children from challenges or consequences, they're inadvertently preventing them from developing essential life skills.
Children need to experience setbacks, disappointments, and even failures in order to develop resilience, problem-solving abilities, and a sense of personal responsibility. When they're constantly shielded from these experiences, they enter adulthood ill-equipped to handle the inevitable bumps in the road.
It's like we're raising a generation of emotionally fragile young adults who crumble at the first sign of adversity. They haven't developed the coping mechanisms or the internal fortitude to navigate challenges on their own.
And this lack of resilience can have far-reaching consequences, impacting their relationships, careers, and overall well-being. They might struggle to hold down a job, maintain healthy relationships, or cope with stress and setbacks.
It's a sobering thought, but it highlights the importance of allowing children to struggle, to make mistakes, and to learn from those experiences.
Exactly. Our instinct as parents is to protect our children from pain and discomfort, but we need to recognize that those experiences are essential for growth and development. It's through facing and overcoming challenges that children build character, develop grit, and learn to trust in their own abilities.
But striking that balance between support and allowing for natural consequences can be tricky. How do we know when to step in and when to let our children figure things out on their own?
It's a nuanced stance, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But a good rule of thumb is to ask yourself, is this something my child can handle on their own with some guidance? Or is this a situation that requires my direct intervention?
And it's crucial to communicate with your child.
Right.
Ask them about their experiences, their challenges, and their feelings.
Right.
Let them know that you're there to support them, but also that you believe in their ability to handle difficult situations.
And remember that failure is not the enemy. It's an opportunity for learning, growth, and resilience. Encourage your child to view setbacks as stepping stones to success rather than as personal shortcomings.
It's a powerful message to send, and it's one that can help our children develop the confidence and resilience they need to thrive in an increasingly complex world. But what about the teachers who are on the front lines dealing with these challenging parent-teacher dynamics? How can we better support them?
That's a critical question. Teachers need to be equipped with the tools and resources to navigate these difficult conversations and to set appropriate boundaries with overbearing parents.
It's not about being confrontational, but about advocating for both the child's best interests and their own professional integrity. They need to feel empowered to say no to unreasonable demands and to redirect the conversation towards a more collaborative and productive approach.
And school administrators have a crucial role to play in creating a supportive environment for teachers. They need to have clear policies in place to address parental complaints and to protect teachers from harassment or intimidation.
They should also provide professional development opportunities for teachers to enhance their communication and conflict resolution skills.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of respect and collaboration where parents and teachers can work together to support the child's growth and development.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the complex interplay of factors that contribute to dysfunctional parent-teacher dynamics. We've talked about denial, entitlement, overprotection, and the importance of allowing children to struggle and learn from their mistakes.
But amidst all these challenges, there's a glimmer of hope. By understanding the psychology behind these behaviors, by fostering open communication, and by equipping both parents and teachers with the tools they need, we can create a more supportive and effective educational environment for everyone involved.
We've explored the darker side of parent-teacher interactions,
Right.
but now it's time to shift our focus to solutions. How can we bridge the gap between, well-intentioned parents
Right.
and the realities of education? How do we create a more collaborative and supportive environment for everyone involved?
It's a complex challenge, but I think the key lies in fostering open and honest communication between parents and educators.
Right.
It's about creating a space where both parties feel heard, respected,
Right.
and empowered to express their concerns without fear of judgment or reprisal.
That sounds ideal, but how do we make that happen in the real world, especially when emotions are running high and perspectives often clash?
It starts with setting the tone from the very beginning.
Okay.
Teachers can establish a welcoming and inclusive classroom environment by reaching out to parents early on, introducing themselves,
Right.
sharing their teaching philosophy, and inviting parents to be active participants in their child's education.
So it's about building rapport from day one, laying the groundwork for a positive and collaborative relationship.
Exactly. And when challenges inevitably arise, it's important to address them in a timely and constructive manner.
Right.
Teachers can schedule regular check-ins with parents to discuss the child's progress, address any concerns, and brainstorm solutions together.
But what about those situations where parents are in denial about their child's learning difficulties or behavioral issues? How do we approach those conversations in a way that's both sensitive and productive?
It's about framing the conversation in a way that focuses on the child's well-being rather than labeling or criticizing the parent.
Okay.
Instead of saying, your child has a learning disability, a teacher might say, I've noticed that your child is struggling with certain concepts, and I'm concerned that they might benefit from additional support.
So it's about presenting objective observations
Right.
and expressing concern without jumping to conclusions or making assumptions.
Exactly. And it's crucial to emphasize that seeking support for a learning disability isn't a sign of weakness or failure,
Right.
but rather a proactive step towards helping the child reach their full potential. There are so many resources available today that can help children with learning differences thrive academically and socially.
And what about parents who are constantly demanding special treatment for their child or questioning the teacher's every decision?
Right.
How do we set boundaries without damaging the relationship?
It's about being firm but fair. Teachers can explain the rationale behind school policies, emphasize the importance of equity and fairness for all students, and redirect the conversation towards a more collaborative approach.
So instead of saying, I can't give your child extra credit because it wouldn't be fair to the other students,
Right.
a teacher might say, I understand your desire for your child to succeed, and I'm committed to working with you to find ways to support their learning within the framework of the curriculum.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between accommodating individual needs and maintaining a level playing field for all students.
Hmm.
And it's important to document these interactions, keeping a record of conversations and agreements
Right.
to avoid misunderstandings down the line.
That's a great tip. It protects both the teacher and the parent, creating a clear and transparent record of communication. But sometimes, even the best efforts at communication and collaboration aren't enough. What happens when a situation escalates to the point where a teacher feels threatened or harassed?
That's when it's crucial to involve school administrators or counselors.
Okay.
They can mediate the situation, provide support to the teacher, and help establish clear boundaries and expectations for parental behavior.
It's about creating a safety net for teachers, ensuring that they feel supported and protected when dealing with difficult situations.
Right.
And schools can also play a proactive role in preventing these conflicts from arising in the first place.
Absolutely. Schools can offer workshops or parent education programs that focus on positive communication strategies, understanding child development, and navigating the challenges of adolescence. These programs can help parents develop realistic expectations for their children
Right.
and foster a more collaborative approach to their education.
And let's not forget the power of positive reinforcement. When parents are actively involved in their child's education and demonstrate respect for educators, it creates a positive ripple effect throughout the school community.
It sets the tone for a respectful and collaborative learning environment where everyone feels valued and supported. And it sends a powerful message to children that education is important and that parents and teachers are working together to help them succeed.
It's about shifting the paradigm from an adversarial us versus them mentality
Right.
to a partnership where everyone is working towards the same goal,
Right.
the child's well-being and success.
Exactly. And while there will always be challenges and disagreements, it's through open communication, empathy, and a shared commitment to the child's best interests that we can create a truly effective and supportive educational experience for everyone involved.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
Yeah.
from the depths of parental denial to the heights of collaborative problem solving. It's clear that parent-teacher relationships can be complex and challenging, but they're also incredibly rewarding when they work well.
These relationships have the power to shape a child's educational journey and ultimately their life trajectory by fostering open communication, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to the child's well-being. We can create a positive and transformative learning experience for everyone involved.
That's a powerful message to end on. Remember, folks, it takes a village to raise a child, and that village includes parents, teachers, administrators, and the community as a whole. Let's work together to create an educational environment where all children can thrive.